Marjorie Taylor Greene had a tweet the other day that went viral. Wanted to talk about it with you guys. So she said the following: "We need a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government. Everyone I talk to says this, from the sick and disgusting woke culture issues shoved down our throats to the Democrats' traitorous America Last policies. We are done." Okay, so right off the bat here, the thing about this, which is beyond infuriating, is that she's clearly just hyper-partisan and tribal, right? So if you're on her team, you're a good person. You have good values. You have morals, your ethics. You're an upstanding citizen. You're intelligent. If you're part of, quote-unquote, the other team, if you're team blue, you're a bad person. You're immoral. You're disgusting. You're unethical. You're part of the problem, and we need to separate from you. Now, understand, this flies directly in the face of stuff that you hear in right-wing media all the time. One of the things you hear all the time these days is like, look, man, we just have to have conversations with people that we disagree with and engage in good faith. And then at the end of the day, let the best ideas win. But the free marketplace of ideas is definitely the way to go, because the only alternative is violence. So this is the opposite of that. This is civilized. That's how we handle our issues. I hear that all the time. Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, people like that, they make these arguments. Now, look, although it sounds kind of corny and cheesy, that might be the one thing that Dave Rubin and I agree on, that Ben Shapiro and I agree on, is that, yeah, you should engage in dialogue. Now, to me, the real divide in this country is the class divide. The real divide is the elites versus average people. Do we have political disagreements? Some people being on the right, some people being on the left? Of course. Are there going to be some areas where there really is no reconciling? Where there is no, middle ground or compromise position, or a time where you walk away and go, you know what, we actually totally agree. Yeah, there's going to be some of those issues. That's just part of being human. People on the left and right are not going to agree on the issue of abortion. They probably never will. People on the left and the right, with, some exceptions, are probably not going to agree on the issue of gun rights and how far you go with regulation, how lax it should be, or how strong it should be, etc. Probably not going to agree on a lot of culture-focused stuff, gay rights, trans rights, things of that nature. Maybe drug laws. There's going to be issues where it's sure, we can't, we're going to disagree, and we have to treat this like the democracy that it should be, and whoever wins does their agenda, and if the other people win, they do their agenda, and you work it out, right? But what she's not acknowledging, and what she doesn't realize, is that Americans actually agree a lot more than they think on a lot of issues. Don't take my word for it. Go look at the polling. So, on economic issues, Americans definitely have very clear preferences. They want to get money out of politics. They want to end the corruption. They want a higher minimum wage. They want one version or another of a universal healthcare system. So there's a lot more agreement than people think. And this just hatred for somebody who has a different label or has some different views, it's just dumb. It's just clearly Marjorie Taylor Greene is way too online. That's what I get from this, is that all she does is run in these far-right circles on far-right websites with her far-right little Twitter groups. And when she sees anything that doesn't feed her narrative, she's like, evil, demon, disgusting, separate the country, split it up. And then look, you can't not make this point, right? Yeah, this happened once before in the past, did it not? That's right. It was called the Civil War. And when you had secession by the Confederacy. And, the legacy of that, it didn't turn out too well, didn't look too great. And they made similar arguments too, hey, we just want to be left alone to do our own thing. And by their own thing, of course, they meant slavery. But it was cloaked in this language of fake virtuousness. And you get a similar sense. What do you want to be left alone to do, other than, like you said, shrink the government? Would there be gay rights in the conservative states of America? Would even adults be allowed to transition if they're trans in the conservative states of America? Would you have any social safety net programs for people at the bottom of the economic ladder in the conservative states of America that Marjorie Taylor Greene would create? I'd love to hear her answers to these questions, right? I would love to hear them. There's a couple responses here that I liked from people in her replies. So here's one. Scott Santons tweeted this map. When you're not coloring all the places where no one lives red, suddenly the map doesn't look quite the same, does it? So in other words, this is the map that like the Trump supporters say, oh, look, Trump destroyed in this election. Look at all the red on that map. Problem is most of that is land. It's very rural. So it's misleading. It makes it seem like the country is way more Republican than it actually is. That's why Democrats won, what is it, like 6 out of the last 7 popular votes. But beyond that, look, there's pockets of blue everywhere and there's pockets of red everywhere. So if you're going to do a national divorce, how exactly are you going to do it? She said go state by state, but hold on. There's many like giant blue cities in the middle of conservative states. Marjorie Taylor Greene is from Georgia. She's from a red district, but the state is actually blue. It's blue in the last election, right? So you sure you want to do this whole separate thing? Because you would end up on the blue side of it by your own model, by what you're calling for. So then the question arises, would you rather do it like by district? Each district is its own state, or this is all part of one state, but it's just very segmented and fractured? Is that what you want? It just seems a little like how exactly would you pull this off? But my favorite response actually is from Zedjalani. He says, if you drive like 25 minutes away from Marjorie Taylor Greene's conservative district, you find a very progressive district. There aren't any checkpoints and armed guards in between. People freely intermingle and usually don't even bring up politics because real life isn't Twitter. See, that is my experience, right? That people are just people. And most people are just, if you meet them and you're nice to them, they will generally be nice to you. Over 90% of people are like that. And that's what most of life is. I mean, you have your close friends and you have your family. And then outside of that, you have, acquaintances or whatever, people who you meet going about daily life. And people are just people. Very few people ever, like, right when they meet you, be like, what's your position on the marginal tax rate? No, people don't do that, right? And so that's not to gloss over our very real differences, but it's also not to gloss over our very real similarities. I think the point here is she's way too online, she's way too tribal, she's way too partisan, she takes herself way too serious, and she has these flippant, glib things that she thinks are solutions that would make everything better. But in reality, an idea like that, it would be the end of the United States. It would be the end of the United States. She's basically calling for the destruction of the United States of America and the creation of something new. I'm not of the belief that under no circumstances can you or should you try something new. I think there are scenarios we can envision where maybe it does make sense to totally try something new and get past the United States of America. But we're certainly not there yet, right? We're certainly not there yet. And I think what she wants is more fragmentation, more divisiveness, and ultimately it's a terrible idea. So she's getting dunked on pretty hard from every which direction for this. Even conservative commentators are like, this is literally treasonous and un-American. So it's not landing how she thought it would, but I mean, look, this is what happens when you're drunk on Trump's Truth Social comments and Ben Shapiro's show and Steven Crowder's show and right-wing Twitter, and you're lost on some rag blog right-wing website. Like, this is what happens. Your brain gets poisoned, and you start to see the world in very black and white. Good guy, bad guy, my team, other team. That's how you start to think. And it's not going to work out in the long run, man. It's just not. All right, guys, that's the show. I love you all very much. Thanks again for listening. Do me a favor, hit the like button, but more importantly, hit the subscribe button. We're trying really, really hard to get to 1 million subscribers, and only you guys can help us get there. When we get there, when we're close to there, maybe we'll do a live stream and try to hit it live and celebrate and all that fun stuff. So help me get there, man. We're about 10K short. Let's do the damn thing. Massive shout out to everybody who supports this show on Patreon. You guys make it work. Never had a conversation with an advertiser. Never will because of you guys. So if you like this show, consider donating $2 a month or $5 a month. Or if you want to go nuts and give $7 a month, go right ahead. Link is in the video description box below. And you can also support Crystal Kyle and Friends on Secular Talk. on Secular Talk, Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack, $5 a month. Gets you the video of all the interviews, and it gets it to you a day early. Massive shout out to everybody who supports us on Substack. And yeah, what else was there? Are there any other plugs? Oh, Spotify. That's right. Listen to the full podcast on Spotify of this show. We're trying to build something out outside of YouTube because YouTube doesn't treat us all that fair, as you guys know. So if you go and give it a listen. Look, the other day, we cracked the top 10 most listened to political podcasts in the U.S. the other day. We were number 9. So we're climbing. So go ahead and give it a listen on Spotify if you guys haven't yet. All right. I love all you to death. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.